Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. Okay, so sorry about coming too late tonight, but I did have a Zoom meeting that I had to be on, and it actually did just end, so I was definitely running late. So it's a good thing I made it 8:30, but we'll put the camera down and we'll get started right away. I've got 3 Christmas cards for you tonight, and let's get started. Okay, so let's get a little closer. There we go. That looks pretty good, I think. All right, and let's just check and see if everything's looking good on Facebook's end of things. My computer's been freezing up and doing some interesting things. It's not a new computer, but it's definitely not what I would consider an old computer. So I'm thinking of just trying to take it in and have it cleaned up. Has anybody ever done that? Just brought theirs in, and if so, have you used someplace like Staples or Office Depot, or have you used some other service like the Geek Squad or whatever? I also appear to be frozen. That's a little concerning. No internet problems today that I'm aware of. But I do appear to be frozen because I'm looking at me instead of at what you should be seeing, which is my 11 Lake Stamper paper here. Yeah, and it's just me all frozen up. Hey, Debbie, how are you? So, Debbie, we're going to work on the same cards that we did for Coffee and a Card yesterday. Oh. Okay, I just got completely cut off from Facebook. Oh, there we go. Okay. Except that we're going to change up that red one that was a little weird yesterday. The one that Cheryl was working so hard at, making it different. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Things are still very slow. And I hear the fan running on my laptop, and I've told that means the laptop might be running hot or something to that effect. So let's give it a go and see what happens. It's the best I can do, I guess, at this point. All right, so the first card that we're going to work on, that red one that was a little weird yesterday. Oh, hang on. The one that Cheryl was working. Well, that's where. Okay. That's very strange because according to my computer, my computer is muted. So I don't know why I'm hearing me twice. Anyway, let's just try to keep on going before I get too far ahead of myself. I am 11 Lake Stamper. That's my business. My name is Roberta Colasino. I'm 11 Lake Stamper on YouTube, and this group is 11 Lake Stamper Creatives on Facebook. And I also have an 11 Lakes Stamper Facebook business page. At some point, I will start recording my videos there as opposed to here, and save this group for more of a sharing kind of thing where people can share pictures of things that they've made using Stampin' Up! Products and so on. All right, so let's move ahead. So for this card, I used the Peace on Earth stamp set, which actually is part of a bundle, which is actually part of a suite. And to be honest with you, I bought the entire suite just because I kind of wanted to. I bought the whole suite. There's some lovely paper in the suite, and during my weekly coffee and a card yesterday, we did make some cards using that suite. And sorry, I'm always reaching for something. All right, so with that suite, you get this Peace on Earth stamp set, and I'm using the Peace on Earth sentiment, you also get these, they're called Hues of Blue Flowers. And Debbie pointed out yesterday at our class that she saw those and just didn't think they were that nice, but in person she really liked them. So unfortunately, that is one of the things that happens. Whether they're posted online or in a catalog, you just don't get the same picture that you do in person. And that would be true for you seeing them here right now on my video. So it also came with, which we did not use yesterday, it also came with this Misty Moonlight ribbon, which looks like it's 3/4 of an inch. Usually it tells you silver edged ribbon, half an inch, silver edged ribbon. It's really, really pretty. Misty Moonlight and silver on the edge, obviously. Very pretty, a little bit of bling, a little bit of shine to that. And I'm trying to remember, there was one suite that I ordered that I couldn't get the entire suite because the dies were no longer, they weren't available at the moment. And this might, no, I don't think this is it. I think, no, it might be. I think this is the one that I couldn't get the dies. So I can't show you the dies right now, but it doesn't matter because what I chose to use to make this card was my 2 3/8 inch punch and my 2 1/4 inch punch. All right. So I'll show you how I did that. The Designer Series paper, as I just mentioned, is really quite lovely. It has 12 pieces of paper, two each of 6 designs. So this is the one we're using today, and this is the flip side of that, which is very plain. None of these papers really scream Christmas to me, and I like that sometimes. They can certainly be Christmassy. They were intended to be, but the flip side of ours is often something very plain and not as busy as the front side. This one has the doves in it. Yeah, this was the die set I didn't get, and the reason I really want to get it is because it has doves that you can cut out, as well as some labels and some other things. So it was a really nice die set. And this is the flip side of that. And then here's another one. So you're seeing the Misty Moonlight. I'll check in a minute and see exactly what the colors are. And then the back of that is, again, just very plain. This one has the doves in it and the Misty Moonlight, and I think just a touch maybe of Night of Navy. But this is the back. It definitely looks like a kind of a beige something or other. Maybe it's crumb cake. I'm not sure. We'll find out in a second. And then the back of that is this just pretty kind of floral. So it's very, very pretty paper, but also with the suite came this glimmer paper. And the glimmer paper, we got 2 sheets in Night of Navy, or actually this one might be Misty Moonlight. 2 sheets that are kind of a dark charcoaly gray, maybe even black, and then 2 sheets that are kind of a mixed glimmer. Let me see what it says on the back about those colors, just so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so it says, all right, I think I've mentioned this before, that Stampin' Up! Is getting away sometimes from assigning things specific colors, because they may want this to carry over, but maybe Misty Moonlight will retire. So they're not going to want to be selling a paper next year that has Misty Moonlight. So they're literally just saying blue, dark gray, and soft green. All right, they're not being specific about the colors. And this one here has Basic Beige, Cloud Cover, Crumb Cake, Misty Moonlight, Pecan Pie, and Secret Sea. So the one that I was saying might be Night of Navy was actually Secret Sea. So I could have used that color in my card class yesterday, but I actually didn't. I used Night of Navy, and I think that's going to be just fine. And I hope it will be, because that's what I already cut out. So there we go. All right. So what we have here, this is the sample card. And we have a white card base, and what I did was, it is the typical 11 by 4 1/4. I scored it at 5 1/2, and again at, it would be 6 1/2 or 4 1/2, depending on which type of scoreboard you're using. And what we're going to do, this is called a book fold card. And so what we do is we add glue to this little 1-inch section here. And we do that because we're going to sort of close off that part of the card. Now, some people will put a ribbon or something wrapped around, so be sure if you choose to make a book fold card with a ribbon or something that wraps around, that you do not glue this down until you've wrapped whatever you're using around. Okay, so in this case, we're not using ribbon, but instead we're using a strip of that glimmer paper right there. And so since this is a 1-inch space, this is a 3/4 of an inch, and since this is 4 1/4, this is 4. So we just cut it down enough so that there would be a bit of a border, and we can go ahead and put that right on now. My smaller glue bottles, the ones I've been showing you, the fine tip glue bottles, they've all become kind of clogged, and I think I figured out what was causing that is that I haven't had a class in a while, and so because of them not being used, they thickened up and they clogged up, whereas the glues that I keep on my desktop and use all the time, those get refilled quite frequently and used up quite frequently. So I'm using some glue that we used in class the other day just to sort of keeping it moving, if you know what I mean. All right, so there we go with that. And it's very pretty. It also does not come off on your hands. So for those of us, and yes, I'm one of those people who really don't care for glitter. I love the way it looks. I just can't stand the fact that tomorrow there'll be glitter on my face or in my hair. This does not come off. There's a texture to it, but you will not end up with blue fingers. Okay, so now this piece here is 4 by 4 1/4. So while it kind of looks like a square, you do want to be careful to get it on the right way, because if you put it on the wrong way, it's not going to fit right. So it's 4 1/4 this way and 4 inches that way. I might have to stick a pin in this one, just to get it going again. Okay. So Debbie, if you don't mind me talking about you a little bit, Debbie is a level 2 member of my team, which means she's not signed up directly under me. She's signed up under one of my team members. And Debbie has signed up as a team member, either under me or one of my team members. I believe this is the 3rd time. Debbie does not teach classes. Debbie does not do workshops. Debbie does not make videos, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to. But she likes having those supplies, so she is what we call a discount shopper. Sometimes she simply joins and gets the starter kit and may not buy anything else. Sometimes during her time as a demonstrator, she might find something else that she'd like to buy, and she might buy that, and she gets a 20% discount for doing that. So there are people who sign up to do those kinds of things with Stampin' Up! Who have no intention of selling things to anybody. I'm looking for my blue stamp pad, which should have been, there it is, I say should have been in the basket with the other things, but it wasn't. Okay, and again, I'm choosing to use the Night of Navy because I think it pops up really well, and I chose to use the Night of Navy for my background circle because I thought it added a pop of color. When I did my sample, I used Misty Moonlight because I really do like the color, but it didn't pop quite as much. So that's why in class I changed it to make it the Night of Navy. That's just personal preference, obviously. What I love about circles is that you really can't stamp crooked on a circle. You want to get your spacing as even as you can, but it can't be crooked because if it's crooked, you just turn the circle around. I like that. No fuss, no muss. Okay, so now I'm going to glue that on. I feel like I already got just a slight mark on there. I've got to pull out my sand eraser and I can fix that. With some of the darker, richer colors, I tell people that those colors will sometimes take just a second or two longer to dry than the other colors, and that's just because they are a richer pigment. Again, I'm not saying that with any true scientific knowledge, but it seems to be the case. All right, so somehow I moved a tiny bit of that, and the sand eraser should get that off with no problem. I don't even know if you can see it on camera. Probably not, unless I stuck it under your nose. All right, and then the other thing I wanted to point out is that if you wanted to use the ribbon here, you could also use the ribbon by making, I keep calling them the cancer ribbon shape because that's kind of what it is behind this. But I think it might be just a little too much with this ribbon and that there. Again, just my opinion. You might think that was a great idea. And I'm going to take some dimensionals. And put some on the back here. I think 3 should do the job on a circle. And then I'll try to get that evenly spaced and as straight as I can. Not willing to lose sleep over it. I did not push it down yet. That's why I can pick it up. Once you push these down, they do not come up very easily. And I find the more I fuss with it, the more chance I have of getting it wrong. So I'm just going to say it's done, and I'm going to press it down. And now you would really have to sort of surgically remove that with your pick tool if you really wanted to. So then I'm just going to take some of these, and I think on my sample I used 2 dark ones and a light one. Someone in my class yesterday used the really light one. I chose not to do that just because I wanted to kind of stick with the blues. So let's see, I'll take a navy blue one. So with the take your pick tool, you've got a putty end there. And what I do is I come in from the side sort of and I push up. And that helps get the blue or grab the thing without tearing off the, there's a little adhesive strip on the back or an adhesive dot. So let's see, we'll put that one down there. And then I'm going to grab one small of the light ones and put that there. So this tip here is filled with putty. It lasts quite a while, and when the putty gets worn out or if it should break off, which really doesn't happen too often, you just give this a gentle twist. Do not expect to see something right away and go, oh, it didn't come out, I'm going to twist it some more, because what happens then is you get a snake of this putty coming out. So give it one, like maybe quarter or half twist, and then stop and wait and see what happens. Be patient, maybe count to 10 or 12. If nothing happens, give it another twist and wait, because I promise it will come out, unless you're all out, in which case it won't. Lost the top already. Okay. Oh, I see it now. I took an idea from another demonstrator to color this with a red Sharpie marker so that it was more visible, but it's wearing off, so I'll have to do it again. So pretty simple card. Now, I, again, chose not to put anything on the inside of mine, but you certainly could. Let's see. There's a bunch of choices. I used some of the other ones in the other cards. Let me just see. You could possibly put a blue tree from the Pine Tree Trimmings set. This one you could just perhaps stamp in blue on the inside, and then you could put another sentiment on the inside or just write your message. I do like the idea of possibly putting a tree on the inside. This tree could be colored in using the blends or your colored pencils, your watercolor pencils. This one I haven't played with. I think it has the potential to be really cute. I think I would also stamp it in blue if I were doing this card, and then maybe color in some of the smaller stamps in blue or silver, I'm thinking. And if you were putting this higher up, you could put some presents on the tree, under the tree as well. So there's lots of options with these stamp sets for sure. Lots of options. So that is card number 1, and I'm keeping it really simple. The other thing I did want to point out to you about this set is that while it is considered a Christmas set, the Peace on Earth and the Peace, Love, and Joy, I would say, are really the only 2 Christmas-like sentiments in the set. There's love. You can add sending love, wishing you love, okay? But there's also a sympathy sentiment on here. And this paper, again, not screaming Christmas. This would make a beautiful sympathy card, probably minus the glitter. All right, but that paper would be beautiful. Heartfelt prayers, all the best in your new adventure, big hugs for a good friend. So absolutely only 2 of these really make me feel Christmassy, and especially the Peace on Earth. So this would be a great all-around set to have. Obviously, it doesn't have a happy birthday, right? But other than that, it's pretty good. All right, so moving on to the next card. The next card is the one that I was talking to Debbie about, and I'm going to show it to you because it's not a great card. So here's what happened with this card. I wanted to make a fun fold card, so this card is actually a Z fold. All right, and there are millions of versions of C folds depending on the size of the card and how you fold it. But basically the idea is that it kind of looks like a Z, maybe like a backwards Z. So this is an 11-inch sheet of cardstock, scored at 5.5 inches and 2.25 inches, and then folded this way. So what I did was I put some of this DSP, which carried over from last year, on the front, and I thought to myself, I don't at all mind. I was thinking of having the card go this way. I don't mind when a sentiment is sometimes going in the wrong direction. It doesn't bother me. It's not like you can't tell what that says. So my first thought was to put the tree over here where it would be hidden from this, or put the tree here going this way, and then have space inside to write. But I thought, you know what? People don't necessarily like a card that has the sentiment going the wrong way. So what if I made it a Z fold going this way? And I did. And when I was done, I didn't like it, and I was pretty sure that the people in my class wouldn't like it. And they kind of didn't. They didn't pick this as one of the cards they wanted to make. One lady made 3 of these, so luckily I had some extra. I think most people made that one, and the next one that I'm going to show you. So I decided to show you this the way that it probably should be made to make it more popular, I guess I would say. So I used the Pine Tree Trimmings for that, and I used... oh, I take it back. I did not. I used the other. There's another one. Hang on. It's in another bin. For this one, I used this tree here in Ornamental Christmas, just for something different, okay? Or you could choose either one of these, which are kind of wispy, different looking. You could choose this one and color it. Lots of choices, and I know that both of these sets have trees, but they were different enough that I really did want both of them. All right, so we're going to see how we could make this in a different way. So basically I got out my same colors. I think I got out, did I get out the same tree? I didn't actually. I got out this tree from here, just for something different, I guess. Okay, and what did I also get out? I also got out a little bit of bling, thinking that that might be kind of fun to watch or to use, and I got out the Season's Greetings stamp from, hang on, it's right here, the Season's Greetings stamp from Traditional Labels. And these are the traditional label dies. So this die set, forget about Christmas, this die set could be wonderful all year long. It's just a really nice set of dies. But in particular, this one, Season's Greetings, is meant to go, oh, gotta flip it over, is meant to fit in there. And I really liked that. And that's what Cheryl ended up doing at my class. She ended up using this and having it go this way. And I'm going to do something similar to what she did, but also a little bit different. Okay, so let me show you what I think I'm going to do. And I think I might be missing a piece already. Let me see. Yeah, it's in here somewhere. So let's just get started, all right? So we've got the Z-fold, and probably the first thing we could do is glue this in, but I like to do my stamping first, so I'll wait on that. And then what I decided to do, which is different from what she did, first of all, I'm going to put this on here, and she chose to use the other side, which is just fine. I just liked the little bit of glitz that we got with this side, so that's why I chose to use it. But again, I always say, you do you. Now, this Designer Series paper, which carried over from last year, is actually cherry cobbler. And when I made a card using this paper last year, I used cherry cobbler paper. This year, I just plain didn't have enough cherry cobbler paper left over, and I decided that the real red looked fine with it. I was okay with it. Nobody said anything yesterday either, so I think everybody was okay with it. All right. And then I'm just going to zhuzh that over a little bit. The nice thing about the liquid glue is it does give you some wiggle time if you don't get something down straight the first time. And then I took a piece of just the Real Red cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 2 1/2. 4 1/4 by 2 1/2. And I'm going to put that on right here and have it hang over, okay? And that's where I really do need to find that other piece and really hope that I did not lose it. Nope, I didn't. So this is the Season's Greetings that I was just explaining to you that got cut out from that really neat die. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have this hang over, and I'm going to have the Season's Greetings on there. I'm starting to wonder if that's just a little bit too thick. I can't really make it much shorter. I do intend to put a tree here, and I do intend to put the tree there. So yes, the tree will be seen. The other option would be to put the tree underneath. I could do that. And then this would be blank, except for where you wrote on it. And what Cheryl found yesterday was that she didn't like hers being blank. It just looked too blank to her. So she grabbed one of the sets has like little Christmas ornaments in it, but very tiny. And she made kind of a border of Christmas ornaments, I think. Or she started to do that, and then we talked about maybe putting a strip of this paper over there, and I think she might have ended up doing that. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that there are so many options of things that you can do. So I could make a red Christmas tree, but let's face it, they're really not red. I would definitely make a blue Christmas tree, though, because I like blue for trees. And I think one year when I was growing up, we had a blue and silver Christmas tree when that was kind of a thing. But I'm just for tradition's sake, I'm going to stick with green on this one. So I think I will go for putting the tree over there on the side. I always tell people, take a look at your stamp before you stamp with it. Really take a good look at it and stamp going in different directions, only up and down. Don't do this thing where you swoosh it on the stamp pad, because with the photopolymer stamps, you could actually end up wiping off some of the color that you've just worked to get on there. All right, and then put that right there. I'm not really pressing as hard as it may look. I'm just holding it down to let the color have time to sink in there. Okay, so now I have a couple of options for what I do. I could get out my garden green, which is the ink color that I have here. I could get out my garden green colored pencils if I wanted to, and I could color that. I could choose to just leave it blank. There would be no harm in that either. If I do choose to use the pencils, I'll show you what I would do. I'm also looking for just a little bit of a brown, because I feel like the tree trunk really should be brown, even though there's now green ink on it. I think making it a little bit brown gets the point. I'm not coloring very carefully there. You can see pencil marks there, and all of that is okay. And I'll show you why in just a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color this tree in. And again, I'm not going to color like especially carefully. I'm not going to worry too much if you can see some little white spaces there. I'm not going to worry about coloring every inch. What I might do when I'm done with this is go back over it a little bit, which you can also do later after the fact, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. I've got glue on there and it's holding down my card. Isn't that interesting? And there go the colored pencils. Did you hear that? So I could come back in here, and in these spots where there's these little marks that the artist had given us, I could go over them a little bit more dark. I could be pressing down on my pencil a little bit harder. Watercolor pencils tend to be soft, so don't press too hard because you might break your tip. I don't always worry about having a really pointy tip, because sometimes that's a disadvantage. It depends on what you're coloring. All right, so now I've done that, and again, it doesn't look like I spent a lot of time on it. It's not fancy. But now I'm going to bring in my blender pens. They come 3 in a box, and they can be used over and over again until the little, I never know what to call it, so I call it an emulsion, for lack of a better word. So when the little emulsion inside of them wears out, then they may need to be replaced. To make sure that they're clean, in case the last person used this for red or blue or some other color, I wipe it off on a piece of scrap paper, and then I go in. So first let me show you up close. You can see all the lines, right? You can see the pencil lines clearly. This has no color to it whatsoever. It just has this emulsion, whatever's in it, some kind of a liquid. And now I'm going over what I just colored. And what's happening is at all the places where they're white, I'm able to just sort of drag that color from one place to another, and now the tip of my brush has green ink on it. So no matter where I go, I'm going to drag some ink along with me. If after I'm done coloring this, I decided I really wanted it to be darker, just take a couple of minutes, make sure that it's dry, and color over it again, and then go over it again with the blender pen. All right, it is a brush tip, so you don't want to press too hard. And in a couple of minutes, it's now colored. I also could have just left the outline. That would have been okay too. That would not have been a big problem. Some people might like that. I just always like to show you some of the different tools that are available to you. Now I know there's still a little green on this, but I don't think it'll hurt, so I'm just going to color that in green. Now I don't want to go over my green again with that because now there's a little bit of brown on it, but I'm cleaning it off just by wiping it gently on a piece of scrap paper. So if I suddenly decided that I did want, sections of this to be a little bit darker, and I just kind of came in and pressed again, I could leave those and let them be kind of wild and scraggly looking, and I actually don't mind that look at all. But if you don't like that look, you could just come in with the blender pen again, smooth out those lines a little bit so they're not quite so wild. Catch any spots where you might have missed before, where there's just a little too much white, and just go ahead and color it. All right, so there you go. There you have it. So now I can go ahead and glue this on inside, but that will be covered so nobody will see it. It'll be kind of a little surprise when they open the card. Okay, now I have a little bit more glue right here than I'd like to have, and I'm afraid it might ooze out when I glue this on. So I'm just going to take it and press it off before I get to the corner. Just going to press it off in a different spot in the middle of the card so that when I now go like this and go like this, that glue is not going to ooze out over here. Okay, so you can always do that. You don't have to even use your fingers. You can just do that. Okay, so now we've got that, and I can leave this blank for a message. I'm really okay with doing that. And then this, there's still something about this that kind of bothers me. I could maybe look for another piece of that designer series paper and put that on there too. It wasn't really what I had in mind, and so I don't know if I have any extra kicking around here. I just have a few really little pieces. Let me see. Well, that's certainly too little. What else have I got, maybe? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so I do have a bigger piece. If I wanted to put a bigger piece on here, I could. Or for this background, maybe I could choose to just use the back so it's not as busy. Again, lots of options. Lots and lots of options, and that's what I love, excuse me, about stamping and doing things like this, is that you always just have a lot of options. You're never stuck with just one idea. Okay, so let's see. What did I say this was? 4 1/4 by 2 1/2. So this could be a little bit smaller. So instead of being 4 1/4, it could be 4 3/8. And instead of being 2 1/2, I may have done that backwards. I did it backwards. I do that a lot. And I can't make this too much smaller. I really can't. A little bit smaller, but not much. Okay, so now I have just a totally different idea. So I am going to cut myself a piece of that. That is 3/4 of an inch, and I probably don't even need that much. I'm going to cut myself a piece of that. That's 3/4 of an inch. And I'm just going to recover completely from that mistake that I made. And I'm going to try something different, which I may or may not like. We'll see. What if I put a little bit of that there, and then put this like that? I think I like that. Okay. All right, so I just put a strip down the middle, and then I'm just going to put some dots of glue on the corners. So again, not necessarily being terribly precise, but that's okay. All right. And then how about some dimensionals? And as you can see, I made an attempt at stamping that earlier and didn't like it too well. It was a little crooked, so I just flipped it over, and that's the other nice thing about our quality of cardstock, is that the ink will not soak through, so you will not see that mistake shining through. All right, and then I kind of like the idea of putting this at a little bit of an angle. And what's nice about that is then I don't have to struggle with getting it on straight, do I? Okay, so since I popped this up, I will not pop this up, and that I like. I'm liking that completely. All right, now you have to remember, this part's hanging over, okay? So I have this tendency to put my thumb over the part where I don't want any glue. So I still won't come too close to here. What I'll do is I'll put some there, and then I'll put some here. And that should be more than enough to hold it in place and not have to worry about something falling off. So I'm going to kind of try to make this margin and this margin kind of close to each other in size. It's always easier for me to pick up a card and look at it straight on to tell if it's straight or crooked. And now I don't have to worry about any glue over there coming over. All right, and there you have it. And I don't think this is too much white showing that it bothers me, so I'm going to leave it just the way it is. Now, I got these out, but I honestly don't think I want to use kind of silverish, even though I know they're clear, bling on that. So I'm not really sure what I'd want to use or if there's a real need to even use some bling. But if I was going to use it, I think I would want it to be goldish in color. And I did have something here. Sometimes I don't know. I told somebody the other day that those little peppermint things were retired, and Debbie told me yesterday that she recently bought them. So apparently they're not retired, but they might be on the last chance list. Honestly, I don't know. They might have been in the annual catalog, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Okay, so now these are the adhesive back sparkle gems, which I actually think are still current, but you know, we have so many products, to be honest with you, that sometimes I just get confused. I hope they're not retired, because apparently I have 2 packages of them. Alrighty, so I think I'll get my take your pick tool and I'll grab some of those just because they're kind of pretty, and I can. They're kind of a goldish / champagne-y color, I think. I don't know if champagne-y is a word, but I just invented it. So if it wasn't a word before, it is now. And instead of putting it on the red, I'll put it on the white. And I'll go for maybe one large one, and maybe a small one there, and another small one here in that little corner. How's that? So now we've got some bling. Okay, so that I like. I'm absolutely liking that now. I like it much better than yesterday's sample card. And I think when Cheryl was done with her card, she was happy that she did something different with it as well. And this one would be okay. You certainly can have a fun fold going in this direction, but I don't know about the tree sitting right there, and I don't know about the color that I picked for the tree. But that's just me, you know, so who knows. All right, so next up is a card that I intended to be almost all Mossy Meadow. So I have Mossy Meadow paper, and then I have this Designer Series paper that has gold on the back and something very plain and black on the other side. So I think that's how it all was, that it was foil on one side, or at least some foil, and then some black on the other side. All right, so I had that and a white card base, and I used this tree, and then I used a different Merry Christmas, where the words Merry and Christmas were two different words, and I had to put them on the block together, and they were just the tiniest bit. I feel like the Merry is going uphill a tad. Again, could be my imagination, but I think it is. So basically we have some layers here. So we have a basic white layer cardstock, and then we have this Mossy Meadow layer, which is 5 by 4. No, 5 1/4 by 4. All right, and that's going to go right there. And we don't need to do anything special with that, but glue it on. Oh, I'm sorry, Debbie. I didn't see all of your comments until just now, and I just saw the words "take that back," and I thought you were yelling at me. Like telling me to take back something I said, and then I realized that's not what you were saying. Oh gosh, and it's getting increasingly difficult for me to read the comments from, like, I think I'm 2.5 feet away. I tell you. But I told everybody I passed the driver's test at DMV with flying colors without my glasses on, just so you know. So I don't know. But that's kind of a different thing. You know, I'm not reading small print while I'm driving. And I do occasionally miss a turn because I've missed the sign for the road. But if that's the worst thing that happens, I'm okay. Bling looks nice on the white. Yep, it does. It does kind of finish it off. I felt like the bling might get lost if I put it in the red or on the gold. All right, so then I want to make sure that I've got my card facing in the right direction now. That's another place where disasters can happen. Small disasters maybe, but disasters nonetheless. All right, and now this section can get glued to that section. And this was the one yesterday that I think I ended up trimming down because I think it was just a little too big. And that is where I do like this mini trimmer, which sadly is no longer available to you. But there is one on Amazon that's very similar, and I know I linked it at some point, but maybe I need to make a separate section under media for things that I'm linking, like a my favorite things kind of section. And I haven't tried the other one out, but other demonstrators have, and they say it's good. And for all I know, the same company that makes that one made this one, you know, because we don't always know who makes all of Stampin' Up's things. They make all of their own stamps, and they make all of their own ink pads, except for the specialty ink pads. But the regular 51 colors I think we have now, they make all of those in-house. Okay, so now that goes on there. Oh yeah, that looks better. That looks better. All right, now this is the part that I always forget if I don't remind myself. So the next layer on this card, and where is it? Oh, here we go. Shoo. So this is 4 by 3, and this one is 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. All right, so they need to get glued on, and then this needs to get wrapped around them before it gets put on here. So I'm putting that away for a minute. Okay, and on this piece of paper, which is kind of small, I'm going to stamp in Garden Green the Christmas tree, and I have to leave some room at the top, and you'll see why in a minute. My my Mossy Meadow ink pad is acting funny. I've had it for a very long time, so it might be time to get a new one. But by very long time, I mean at least 10 years. They do last a very long time, and yes, you re-ink them. But every once in a while, one of them just gets kind of funky. Now, I have tried washing them, like literally running them under running water to kind of smooth down the surface, and then I have re-inked them, and that has been very successful on a number of occasions. So I would always try that before ditching an ink pad, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to bring the trunk down lower so that the trunk is hanging off the edge just a little bit, because I want to leave room for something on there. Okay, so we've got that, and then we've got Merry Christmas. And this Merry Christmas is all in one stamp. We will not be seeing this Merry Christmas next year, though, for sure, because Stampin' Up! Has stopped producing the red rubber stamps. Apparently, the red rubber is getting extremely expensive and difficult to get your hands on besides. So they're going to all photopolymer stamp sets. And I like the red rubber. I've always liked it, but I have no problem with the photopolymer stamp set either. Okay, so now I should be cleaning that off. You know I should, because I'll throw something in it or put my hand on it or something. Let's clean those before we have a disaster, because they're pretty inky. So I'm using my chamois to clean with. And I cut mine up into 4 pieces so that I have them for classes and everybody can have one in front of them. Okay, so what I'm going to add, and yes, I admit that these are retired. These were from, if not last Christmas, the Christmas before, they went with that, it was a religious stamp set that had, you know, a creche in it, and it had, I don't remember if it had the 3 wise men, but it was a more religious stamp set. And they had these stars and had beautiful designer series paper in Night of Navy. I think that was really gorgeous. So I think I'm going to use the smaller one. Well, I could use the bigger one. They come in 2 sizes. And like I said, they are retired, but they're called adhesive back star trinkets. And sometimes you can find those things. I've also discovered that on occasion, at least this is what I suspect happens, Stampin' Up! Does some cleaning out someplace, because all of a sudden something that's been gone for a long time is suddenly appearing on the last chance list, what used to be called the clearance rack. And I think they found some stuff in a box someplace because it seemed like it had been gone for a long time, and then it reappears. So who knows? It's just like us when we clean out our craft rooms, right? Who the heck knows what you're going to find? You just never know. And then I took some of these, which are the iridescent foil gems. And I think I did only put 2. You know, there's always that thing about how you're supposed to put things in 3s. But I think I really only did use 2. I took, they seem to come just in 2 sizes, kind of like a medium and a small. So I'm just going to put one here. And one. Now I feel like I want to, well, I guess it's okay. All right. So that's that. And then this baker's twine, I think, was part of the suite with that paper that I just showed you a minute ago. And it only comes with 2. It comes with a gold, and it comes with a black and gold. A white and gold and a black and gold, but I bought 2 of each, so I decided to just put them all in one package and make life easier. So now the part that I always forget is that we're going to wrap this around. So what I do when I'm wrapping anything is I take it and I put it on the back side. I grab just a piece of good old-fashioned Scotch tape and I tape it down just to make sure it stays. And then I make sure that it's where I want it to be, because I wanted it to be under the word Christmas, so that it's not covering it up. And then we wrap it around once, and we wrap it around again. And then after we wrap it around the second time, so that there's 2 strands showing on the front, I'm just going to cut it. There we go. And then I'm going to grab another piece of Scotch tape, and I'm just going to put that down, and it's also going over the other one again, so it should be like doubly secured. All right, and then you can see two of the strands showing there. And I don't think that's going anywhere, but I see I didn't get a lot of tape over there, and you don't want your cards coming apart, so it's just Scotch tape. I'm going to put another piece there just to be safe. And now this piece can get adhered to this piece. Now there's a bow, and I didn't make the bow on it because I'm not good at making bows on things. You know what I mean? I'm better at making them off separately and then attaching them. So it can look like it was all one piece, but I'm just not good at that. It's just not my thing. So if you're not good at something, find a workaround so that it can look better. And there usually is a workaround, believe me. Oh, look at that. That was not good. Okay. So this is my thing that I do to move the paper over to where I want it to be. And that's going to be a little sticky, so I'll take an adhesive eraser to it if it is. All right, I just kind of bend it, and I'm pushing it in the direction that I want it to go in. And I find that sometimes that's much better than trying to pick it up and move it, because that can get ugly. It takes a couple of, turns to do it, and because I didn't use a lot of glue, it dried faster. So it's not perfect, but I can if I want to. Take the little, and I was telling them in class yesterday that these little guillotine cutters are definitely better for when you need to cut a sliver off of something sometimes than the other cutter, unless you've got a new blade in. If you've got a new blade, you're golden, but if you have an older blade, it can cause some, a little bit of damage. So now this is going to go on here, and I'm going to put that on with some dimensionals, and then we'll make a bow. If I don't keep thinking about it, I'm going to forget it. For something that's rectangular in size, I call it the 5 dice thing. So when you roll a 5 on the dice, you've got one in each corner and one in the middle. That seems to work pretty well for squares and rectangles. For circles, small circles, I can do less. I've got glue on my fingers, obviously, because everything's sticking. And now this is going to go center side to side and top to bottom, and the dimensions are not all the same. And that's okay. Yeah, see, if you have to pull it up, you're going to rip it, and I didn't even push it very hard. So it just shows you how sticky these things are. Yep, and one of them came off, but that's okay. Okay, now I'm going to get this back. And I think we decided yesterday in class we needed about 6 inches, but I think for me it's easier just to leave it attached. All right, so I'm going to make one loop, and then I'm going to go around and pull it through. It's much easier with the twine than with the ribbon because you don't really have to worry about what direction it's going in, whereas with the ribbon you don't want it twisted in a certain direction. And then when I'm sure that I have it the way I want it, because I don't want this to be a huge bow, I'm going to make it as tight as I can. Straighten it out a little bit, and always end by making it tight again. All right, and then you do want them to be kind of the same size, if you can. And then I've got ribbon scissors, and I know they're ribbon scissors because they have a little bit of ribbon on them, or in this case I think it's a piece of felt, but whatever. Something that lets you know they're not to be used for paper. And then what I do is I take a glue dot, and I take my fingernail and I just kind of roll it up into like a little log shape. And then I put it on the back of the bow, and I do that with ribbons too, because then it's not as easy to see that you've got something back there. It kind of hides. And I'm just going to put that right there. Yep, I am. I'm going to put it right there. Push it under the ribbon or under the bow a little bit with my fingernail. And then we're good to go. And that is that. So let's see what we've got here. Let me clean up my mess a little bit. We've got 3 cards. And I like the fact that we've got some green, we've got some red, and we've got some blue. We've got a little bit of everything. So we've got the blue bookfold card with nothing on the inside yet, but there certainly could be. All right, then we've got this one, also with nothing on the inside yet, but there could be another sentiment on the inside, or another, possibly another tree on the inside. And then we've got this Z-fold card that's kind of all red on the outside, but then we've got that green tree on the inside. And nothing showing here, so here's where you would write your message. All right, okay. Thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks, Debbie, for sticking with me and for all of your good comments. I appreciate those. And we will see you 1 week from tonight. Take care. Oh, hi, Cheryl. Thanks for joining. I didn't even see you before. I'm sorry. It's really hard for me to see those comments. All right. I appreciate it very much. And if you aren't here tonight, then I hope you catch me on the replay on YouTube. Take care and good night.